Hey guys, Nintendrew here. Just recently, I got in a package from Super Rare Games, which is a game publisher based out of London, and they specialize in producing physical copies of indie titles which would otherwise be digital only. You've probably heard of some other companies that are doing something similar, but what's interesting to me about this publisher is that so far, they only produce titles for Nintendo Switch. So of course, when George from Super Rare Games reached out to me and offered to send in a few titles, I thought it would be a great opportunity to show you guys what they're all about. So in this video, I'll be covering 6 indie titles for Nintendo Switch, and we've got a lot to cover here, so let's get right to it. Alright, so here they are, the first 6 titles published by Super Rare Games, and we'll be taking a look at each of them in order of their release. So to get started, first up is Human Fall Flat. Each of these games come with a few extra goodies, so let's see what we've got here. We have a Super Rare Games sticker, a pack of collectible trading cards with characters from their titles, and of course the game itself. And check this out, each of these games come with a reversible cover which can be flipped around to showcase this alternate art. I love when AAA publishers show this sort of attention to detail, and it's great to see the indie guys making that extra effort as well. Really nice touch. So let's pop in the cartridge and take a look at the game itself. So before recording for this video, I had heard of this title, but I really didn't know anything about it. And I've gotta say, after spending some time with it, I was pleasantly surprised to find a really fun and charming puzzle platformer. Human Fall Flat almost feels like a mix between QWOP and Portal. In each level, the game drops your little ragdoll character into a test chamber-like environment and tasks you with finding the exit. But the catch is, your only controls are move, jump, and grab. That's it. The rest is up to you to figure out how to pass each objective with the tools and physics objects you find around the world. Overall, Human Fall Flat is a really quirky and clever puzzle game, and I had a ton of fun with it and will definitely be revisiting it when I get the chance. If you haven't picked it up already, it's absolutely worth a look. Alright, so next up we have The Flame in the Flood. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Super Rare Games is a publisher based in the UK, so all of these titles are actually European releases. However, lucky for us, the Switch is region-free, so you can rest assured that these games will work in your console if you're in the US like me. You don't have to change any settings or anything, they just work like normal. And once again, we've got this awesome reversible cover art, and this time it's been made to look like an explorer's map. Very cool. The Flame in the Flood is a survival exploration game in which you play as a lost camper deep in the woods who is stranded when a devastating flood hits the area. The game immediately struck me as similar to something like Don't Starve, although this title has a pretty unique addition to the formula. To survive, you'll need to find shelter, craft materials, and make it through each night while progressing down an endless river on a rickety raft. Along the way, you'll meet locals, hunt for food, and avoid predators in an effort to stay alive as long as possible. You can choose to play through the game with reduced difficulty and checkpoints, or go hardcore with higher difficulty and permadeath for a real challenge. All in all, The Flame in the Flood is a well-crafted arcade-style adventure with great atmosphere and tons of replayability. Okay, so after that we've got Shelter Generations. This is another survival game, but as you'll see in just a moment, this one is significantly different than the previous title. I should mention before we get too far into this, these 6 titles have already sold out. They are no longer available on the Super Rare Games website, so I was very fortunate that they had reached out to me and had some copies hidden away to send in for review. But if you like the work they're doing, make sure to check out their site and see what's coming soon so you don't miss out on future releases. Shelter Generations is actually 2 games in one. It includes 2 main stories, Shelter 2 and Pause. The first campaign has you take on the role of a mother lynx taking care of her cubs in a harsh wilderness. You'll need to explore, avoid predators, and secure food for your little lynx babies. When I was playing this title, the thing that stood out to me the most was the visuals. It looks almost as if like a PS1 game were thrust into modern day, in a very good way. It's a very deliberate aesthetic choice that gives the game a beautiful and unique atmosphere. I also really appreciate that the game doesn't have a traditional HUD or user interface. It's all very minimalistic and relies on simple controls and visible landmarks to help keep the player immersed and oriented in the world. The second campaign, Pause, is a similar story told instead through the eyes of one of the lynx cubs, so it gives a fresh perspective on the whole experience. Generations is also a Switch console exclusive, so there's no better way to play the game, and everyone who knows me knows I'm also a sucker for cats, so this is right up my alley. Next up, we have Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime. Despite what you might assume from the title, no, this is not a bad romance novel come to life. Instead, it's a real-time action space shooter. When I first saw this game, I thought it was more of a strategy game like FTL, and I'm usually not big on strategy games, so I wasn't expecting much. But what I found instead was an action title with a really simple yet unique core mechanic. On first impressions, it reminded me a bit of another indie game, VVVVVV, with simple visuals and charming characters and dialogue. But the similarities pretty much end there. In each level, you're sent to explore an environment in your ship and must physically move around the interior to access each of the ship's defenses and controls. You also have a little space pet to help you out, so again, brownie points for including a cat. To pass each mission, you'll have to save a specified number of space animals and reach the exit. Overall, Lovers in a Dangerous Spacetime is a lot more fun than I thought it would be, plus the whole game can be played alone or with 2 to 4 players in couch co-op. So again, if any of this sounds interesting to you, it is definitely worth checking out. Alright, the 5th game on the list is the Mutant Muds collection. Now immediately you might notice this game is a bit different from the others. This is a special edition release with an exclusive slipcover. Plus, open it up and you'll find a manual. This is really cool. I think this might be the first Switch game I've seen to include a physical printed manual inside the case. This console generation, physical manuals have kinda gone the way of the dinosaur, with most publishers opting for a digital guide, so it's nice to see the indie scene include that extra pack in. On top of that, the game's reversible cover is this awesome alternate box art in the color scheme of the Famicom. So moving on to the game itself, Mutant Muds is the title I was most familiar with before reviewing titles for this video. If you don't know what this game is, you are missing out. The Mutant Muds collection includes 3 adventures in total: the original game, a standalone expansion with new levels, and a spin-off puzzle game. The main title itself is a beautiful 2D platformer with simple yet addictive controls. But what sets Mutant Muds apart from other platformers is the ability to jump between 3 separate layers from the foreground to the background. You might remember I mentioned this title in my video about the complete Virtual Boy library, as Wario Land Virtual Boy inspired the main mechanic in this game. And it even has a callback to this inspiration with its retro-style secret zones. There's nothing particularly revolutionary about Mutant Muds, but it is definitely a solid 2D platformer, which you really don't see too much anymore, so highly recommended. And finally, we have Worms W.M.D. Now, when I unpacked this last game, I was excited to find what I thought was yet another physical manual in the case, but unfortunately, it's just a little one-page art insert. Regardless, extra goodies are always fun. But moving on to the game itself, most of you are probably plenty familiar with the Worms series. But for those who aren't, Worms is a single and multiplayer tactical strategy game with destructible environments. In each scenario, you're tasked with eliminating the opposing team with a wide array of wacky weaponry, including grenades, bazookas, airstrikes, tanks, helicopters, and more. I did mention earlier that I'm not a huge fan of strategy or turn-based games, but Worms is one big exception. The crazy and at times frantic multiplayer action keeps this series feeling fresh, and it's a ton of fun to play with friends. Of course, Worms W.M.D. is no exception. It's a great party game with plenty of charm and character, a welcome addition to the Switch library. Once again, as I mentioned, each of these titles are available on the Nintendo eShop, but were given a limited physical release through Super Rare Games. The games in this video represent the first 6 titles produced by the publisher and are no longer available, but they're always working on securing new IPs, so make sure to check out their website at superraregames.com to see what they're up to so you never miss a new release. And I'd like to give a big thank you to George from SRG for sending in these titles for review. I'm always glad to add to my growing physical Switch collection. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this look at a few Switch titles published by Super Rare Games. As always, if you did enjoy the video, please do consider subscribing to Nintendrew for all sorts of cool gaming content, and make sure to share it with any friends who might find it interesting. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye! Hey guys, thanks again for watching and for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you like this one, here are 2 more videos you might like as well. As always, if you like what I do and would like to help out the channel, I've got a link to my Patreon on the right side of your screen. And otherwise, I hope you look forward to the next one. Take care!